Mahomes looks to throw it. Pump faking, right side. He wants it. A comeback cut. It is caught by Kelsey. Touchdown, Kansas City. The game is over. The Kansas City Chiefs are champions. How about those Chiefs?
Welcome to another episode of the Kingdom Corner here with Dale and Andrew. Man, we are recapping the Jaguars game today. Man, we're also going to hit up Mahomes' new contract extension or restructuring, as well as revisit the Chris Jones situation. So lots going on in Chiefs Kingdom here, Dale.
Yeah. Yes, a ton. And never a doubt with our wide receivers, right? Never a doubt that our wide receivers would have figured it out.
Well, okay. We're probably still in opposite camps there, but that's okay. So, but yeah, let's jump to this Jaguars game to start with. So first off, I mean, hats off to the defense. Is this defense for real?
I think we were texting during the game and we're like, the defense is for real. And with having Chris Jones in there, 50% of the snaps, like we both said in the previous podcast, that he'd probably have. And man, he got to the quarterback a couple times, twice, I think, sacked, and then definitely pressured and deflected a ball. And so he made a huge difference. Made look like what's his name, the Prince. Lawrence,
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence, not comfortable back there, and so that was fantastic. Trevor Lawrence looked like he had an off day, to be honed with you, and so I think a huge part of that was that defense.
Yeah, I mean, who needs training camp, right? So, no, but we are so glad to have Chris Jones back. Even for all the talk about his contract, for or against, either way, I mean, no matter where you fall on that, you got to be glad to have Chris Jones back.
Yeah, either way. And I mean, there was a lot of haters out there talking about how Chris Jones, let him go, sign him. I know we threw out a couple polls out on the X, and
the opinions of that changed weekly, just about. So
and people are like, let him walk, and I'm like, man, he's too good. And so I mean, I'm glad he's back. So
yeah, so and we can hit more of that here in a second. But yeah, so jumping into this Jaguars game, man, another slow start for the offense. I mean, it just seems like they are trying to force things and they're just not on the same page here. And so they're trying to get things going. They're trying to get that momentum and that that swagger going again, and they're just failing to find it at this point. Yeah,
they definitely. And I think a huge part of that was them forcing, not they, but maybe Mahomes forcing some plays to some balls to some players, and then just starting behind the sticks with penalties. I mean, I can't remember the last time the Chiefs had that many penalties. Maybe I go back to Marty Schottenheimer's days or Gunther Cunningham days, where they would just make stupid mistakes. But I looked it up. I looked it up yesterday. I think the Chiefs averaged 4.6 penalties a game last year. And yesterday
they had 12 yesterday.
Yeah, for almost 100 yards.
Yeah. So the Chiefs had 12 penalties and 3 turnovers, an interception and 2 fumbles, including a fumble on a punt return. So, man, I'll tell you, it just seems like the Chiefs can't get away from those fumbles on punt returns. Last year is Sky Moore, now is Richie James, and I understand that the sun is in his eyes, but here's the thing: if you can't see it, just get out of the way. Yeah. Don't even try to catch it if you can't see the ball. Right. So they can't get around that. But I'll tell you this: with that being said, there's times that the defense got put in a bad spot there, on that fumble recovery. Then they got put in another bad spot, on a penalty where they then had the Jaguars had 1st and goal from the 1 yard line, and I just kind of said, well, okay, they're going to get in here because it's hard to get any NFL team stopped from there. And the only way you can stop them is if they run backwards and you tackle them. And sure enough, they did it, and they got Trevor Lawrence behind the line of scrimmage running backwards. And so Chiefs defense, I mean, shout out to them, right? 9 points, all field goals, held Jaguars for 0 for 3 in the red zone. I mean, that is some incredible numbers, especially being put in the tough situations that they were in. So they also had 4 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 6 passes defense, and 7 quarterback hits. So it's that's that's some good numbers for your defense right there.
Yes, yeah, that's some great numbers and like a quality opponent for sure. And
Yeah.
so, not to, I mean, the Jaguars beat the Colts pretty handily last week, and then they were in the divisional round against the Chiefs. And so, to beat a team like 3 times in a row is pretty good. I mean, I know the
Yeah.
Cincinnati Bengals beat us 3 times in a row, and so yeah,
Yeah. So and I'll add this too is everybody's talking about how the Jaguars are now or should be on the level with the Chiefs and with talk with,
right,
Bills or Bengals or whoever you want to put in that category.
yeah.
And I'll tell you this, if a team gives you 3 turnovers and 12 penalties, you should be able to win that game.
Well, I mean, just for the fact of if I were to tell you before the game, hey, the Chiefs are going to have 12 penalties, equaling 90 something yards, and then have 3 turnovers, do they win? What would you say?
Especially if you tell me those turnovers are on your own side of the field.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, well, they probably did not win that game. Yeah,
Right.
but that's what I'm saying is, the Jaguars, no disrespect to them, they're a great team, but I don't think they've quite arrived to the place yet that people are trying to put them.
Right. They're missing some players still, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then, it just seemed like our new right tackle here, who's the highest paid guy on our offensive line. I mean, there's a lot I want to say. I'll try not to say too much about because, man, I think he's going to be a great player. I do. And I think he's going to help the Chiefs out a lot. But I think both our tackles, both him and Donovan Smith, the new guys on the line, I think they're right now still trying to find their groove with Patrick Mahomes because he plays differently than every other quarterback. He extends plays longer than any other quarterback. And so it's a different way to play the game and block, for that long a period of time. And so they're trying. Although shout to Donovan Smith, he caught a pass yesterday. So it didn't count, but he caught one.
He just stood there too. That was awesome.
Well, he
says, you can't advance the ball. Yeah.
He's like, why try to put any effort into this and get blown up more than I have to because it's coming back. So, but that was pretty funny. So, but Taylor, right, our new right tackle here, there's a lot of talk about him between their first game and this last game we played yesterday about him false starting or not lining up on the line of scrimmage. And so there's even an NFL notice put out with not just him, but several linemen who weren't lining up, properly. And so he was one of the examples used by the NFL. And so knowing that going into the game, you would think that you would maybe be thinking about that a little bit more. But instead, he played the game the same way he's always played. And once again, I'm not trying to drag him, through the mud or anything, but you got to be aware of those things, especially when the NFL uses you as an example of what not to do.
Right. And I mean, I loved his press conference in the locker room the other day where he's like, hey, I'm just playing. I'm head and shoulders above other people. I'm moving when the ball moves. And it's like, well, you're moving pretty early in the ball, So but he'll figure it out. I mean, Andy Reid talked about it. They just needed. He came out of the game for a couple snaps there just to reset and be like, okay, calm down, you got it. Because I don't know how many false starts or he had yesterday.
There was 2 plays in a row where he had holding penalties on back-to-back plays, which is when it came out. But keep in mind, too, Andy Reid started off as an offensive line coach. So if he knows the position well, it's that offensive line. And he knows them all well, but he is really good with those offensive linemen. So he'll go in that room if he needs to and help them out with whatever he thinks they need help with, and they'll figure it out. So I'm not worried about that going forward, but just something to take note of at this point.
Right.
Yeah, and then we have, our wide receivers finally made some catches, right? So good. Travis Kelce.
Never a doubt.
Right. Travis Kelce back in the game, got himself another touchdown. Mahomes became set the Chiefs record for the most touchdown passes between 2 players with Mahomes and Kelce. So shout out to them, props on that. That takes a lot of work. Right. So that's awesome.
But I would have thought, who would you have thought held that record before?
If I was just guessing, it's hard to say because I don't know that we've had any great quarterback for long periods of time. But if I
Right.
were guessing, I would guess it'd probably be like Trent Green and one of
88, right?
yeah, probably 88.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I would thought. So I was shocked to hear like Lynn Dawson and Otis Taylor were the held the record previously. So I'm like, wow, okay.
yeah,
But yeah,
especially
you're
because back then in the 60s and 70s, they didn't pass the ball. I mean, they did pass
yeah,
the ball, but they didn't pass it like they do today. They were a and every team was they were a run the ball team and then pass it to keep the defense honest, basically. Where now
right,
teams run it for the most part to keep the defenses honest against the pass.
you're right. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, pretty impressive. Still many more to come. What do you think they will get to? Will they reach
Um,
100? Over under 100?
Man, well, let's jump into this next part, and I'll kind of answer it in
Okay.
this. So, man, Travis Kelce, he comes back from this injury. He plays in about
Uh huh.
60 to 65% of the snaps, somewhere right
Yeah.
around there. And first off, I was surprised he was in there that much because it didn't seem like he was in there that much every time I was looking for him. But he just wasn't targeted or wasn't the focal point of, I guess, some of the plays he was in there for. But he seemed, and I'm hoping it's just because he's still kind of nursing an injury, but he didn't seem to quite have the step that he usually does.
Right.
And so
Right.
I'm hoping it's not age. I'm hoping it's just because he's trying to nurse this injury a little bit still, which I'm
Yeah.
sure it's still sore, and so I'm sure he's still kind of trying to play it a little bit safe there. But uh, but man, that made me a little nervous, to be honest. Just
Yeah.
seeing
Yeah. Yeah.
seeing Kelsey not kind of move the way he usually does, and not quite hit those open spots. And there's a few tough catches that he usually makes that he
Yeah.
dropped like one or two of those, and and they're not easy catches for anyone, and
No.
even in the NFL to make. So no really fault for that, and you wouldn't even consider it a drop. But they're just plays that he usually makes that he didn't make yesterday. So
Right.
that made me a little bit nervous. So, but I'm just gonna count it off as he's still nursing that injury, and so
There you go.
I'm going to say they're going to get to 100 because I think he's still got. We've talked about this before in previous podcasts, but I think he's still got this year, maybe another year of really high production, and I think
Uh-huh.
he'll stick with the team longer though, because I think he's gonna. I mean, even right now, he's not nearly paid what he deserves, and
Right.
he's doing so because he wants to win championships. And I think
Right.
as he gets older and realizes that he's slowing down, that he'll be willing to take a little bit less just to stick with Chiefs and to stick with Mahomes. And
Yeah.
so I think because of the longevity that he's going to have playing here, as long as he doesn't get any major injury, at least, that I think him and Mahomes will get to 100.
There you go. I think it was around the third quarter of the game. My youngest daughter walked through the living room, and Travis Kelce just caught a ball, and he was running, and she goes, "Dad, why is that guy running so slow?" And I, I just start laughing. I'm like, well, he's trying to come back from an injury. And I said, sometimes Travis Kelce always looks like he's moving slow motion, but no
Yeah.
one can take him down,
Yeah.
And so I
Well,
thought
I'd
that
say
was,
even in previous years, that's the case too. Like he always doesn't
yeah,
look like
yeah,
he's running super fast, but he's always making plays and getting upfield.
yeah. So, but yeah, I think they get over 100, 47. They can do it. Maybe this
Yeah.
year.
Well,
No.
yeah. I mean, it's a
Don't write
lot.
that. Don't
It's a
write that
lot.
down. Don't write that down.
Okay, I won't write it down. I mean, it's a lot to go to get to 100. We'll say that, and it's not going to be easy. So it's going to depend on a lot of if Travis Kelce stays healthy. So, and
Yeah,
it depends on how long he wants to play too. If he only decides he wants to play for a couple more years, they're not going to get it. So,
yeah,
depends on his longevity here. So, but then the other side of it is, so Kelce comes out, has got himself another touchdown and these things, but then the wide receivers, Tony especially, man, he did he redeem himself? Let's just start with that. Did he redeem himself from his first game?
I think. I think he just had an off day, right?
Yeah,
Just an off day. I mean, I don't think there's any redemption there. I think he when he first started coming with the Chiefs. I think he made tough catches. He made smart plays, and so I think that Lions game was the outlier for us. Even though we overreacted and we're like, man, maybe we need to trade Chris Jones and get some wide receivers, or maybe we need to trade for Mike Evans and get him in here, or somebody T Higgins or somebody like that. But yeah, I think he had an off day and he just got right back on track. And so good. Kudos to him for getting in the film room, getting extra jug practice, probably working with the Homes a little bit after practice, stuff like that. So this shows his dedication that he wants to be great. And that's fantastic for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, well, I'll give you this stat too, and I don't have the exact number in front of me. I should have, but
Okay.
I'm a professional, so I don't need them.
That's right. That's right.
No, not really. I'm just don't have it. But I heard this on the radio the other week that in the last couple years, I think they said the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, the person who has the most drops in the NFL is Tony. And so
really?
no other person has as many drops as him, going back to his time with the Giants even. So
yeah. Well, Daniel Jones throwing you the ball and Patrick Mahomes throwing you the ball a little different.
I was about to say, but it does make a difference when he's throwing you the ball.
Yeah.
If you can have a little bit easier of a catch, it makes it harder to drop him too. So, I think I'm not worried about him going forward at all. I felt good about him. And he had a fumble, but that one fumble he had, it was just a great defensive play to come in there and swing his arm and knock the ball out. So, you want him to hold on that ball a little bit tighter, but it wasn't just an errant fumble, though. Not like, LaShawn McCoy, not to throw names out there or anything, but people who just run the ball out beside their body, not even tuck it in and then get knocked that way and be like, why am I on the bench? It's like, okay, guy, let's. Yeah. So, he looked good. I'm feeling good about him moving forward in those things. And Sky Moore had a couple big catches, one real big one on third down went for probably 50 yards or something like that. And so went all the way down into the red zone. And so the Chiefs offense scored when they needed to, but they never really got into a rhythm. And that's what we're looking for going forward is we need the Chiefs offense to get into a rhythm. But if the Chiefs defense keeps playing like this, as we talked about before, this might be Mahomes' best defense that he's ever played with in NFL.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic. And I know we're playing Chicago, and I know they're an NFL, professional NFL team. But would you be opposed to getting Travis Kelce maybe another week of rest and just trying to get him right? Because it's a long season. And that's what I keep thinking about. And I know we're kind of getting into the weeds here because we'll talk about this next episode. But just my gut tells me give him another week off of treatment and let him recover. I know that the Jaguars was kind of a big game. And we wanted to win that. We didn't want to go down 0-2 to start the season. And so it was a big win. We got the win. Chicago's a professional team, but they are not the caliber of the Lions or the Jaguars. And so this may be one of our easiest games of the season.
Yeah. And but the other side, you can't overlook any team in the NFL. No matter who they are. If you overlook anybody, you're going to get beat by them.
Right.
Every single team in the NFL, the guys are paid on both sides of the ball to play. And if you overlook any team, they will beat you. But, to that point, the Bears are just a dumpster fire right now. They have, it's just on.
It's hilarious because you're like, hey, everyone's a professional team. You overlook a team, you're going to get beat. But the Bears are a dumpster fire. So maybe we could rest them.
Well, it's just true what it is right now. So the reason is not because they have bad players. They have some great players in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
But their front office to their head coach has made poor decisions for them that have hurt their team and their players. Tell me a head coach that has lost, 12 of their last games in the NFL. Tell me a good coach that has done that.
Oh, a good coach.
A good coach that's ever lost 12 in a row. Anybody? Well, that's what Chicago has right now. A coach has lost 12 in a row. So, like I said, they got great players. Even Justin Fields, great player, great athlete. Last year, the reason they started winning a few games, they're kind of in the middle of their season and a little bit at the beginning because Justin Fields, they were having some plays drawn up for him that he could run the ball, and they're not doing those this year. And so we won't get too much into that. We'll look more at that as our preview for the Chicago game coming up here. But to your point is, yes, Travis Kelce, if it's going to help him in the long run to sit out a game, I say sit him out. But if it's not going to aggravate the injury anymore, maybe it's just painful, whatever the case may be, then I say, let him get the rhythm in there, even if he doesn't play, 60% of the snaps, even if he's only in there for 30%. let him
Right.
at least keep the rhythm going, even if he's not going to be a huge factor in that game.
There you go.
Yeah. So here's the question I have to ask. So the Chiefs offense, as we just discussed, has had a slow start, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the truth. They've had a slow start. And so the
Slow
big
start.
difference this year in our offense, right? We had a couple new offensive linemen and a tackle. So that's a given.
Yeah.
But nothing major. They're both professionals who've been in the league for a long time, have had success in the place that they've been. And so it hasn't been anything surprisingly, or shouldn't be anything big in that change. We lost Juju as a wide receiver, and McCole Hardman, but McCole Hardman's basically out all last year. Anyways,
Yeah.
with injury. And so, they have MVS still, and they have all these young guys that they're now relying on. And so the only big difference in our offense is our wide receivers. We lost Juju, and so we're now relying on Tony and Moore to step up, right? And maybe Rashee Rice, our guy we drafted. And so the only other big difference is we lost Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator. So is the reason why the Chiefs aren't scoring as much, or is the reason why they're in a funk is because they've lost a little bit of their leadership in Eric Bieniemy, who went to the Washington Commanders?
How can I put this? No, I don't. I think it's like the same players. I think you are like a different cast. I mean, like you would have thought last year losing Tyreek Hill, you would have taken a huge step back, but they didn't take a huge step back. And so I think it's just kind of like it feels like even more so. It feels like you're counting on younger guys than you were the year before. With Travis Kelce was 100%, Juju was a veteran, MVS is a veteran who seems to be disappeared. We may want to put a missing person report out for MVS.
I know. I know.
I know he was targeted a couple of times, but man, he's like, how are you on an NFL field and your name not anyway? So, but yeah, I think like Rashee Rice is a rookie. You got Sky Moore, basically a rookie. Tony, basically a rookie, because they haven't played very much. And so I think it's just taking time to get that chemistry, develop that game speed, and things like that. And so, yeah, I think they'll figure it out. But we've seen the Chiefs start slow. Actually, normally we don't see the Chiefs start slow in September at all. Usually they're like up and running, like they're blowing teams out. They probably Andy Reid probably has the best September record of all the coaches ever. It's usually kind of like in that middle of the season where they kind of like slow down, and so it's kind of strange to see them struggle early. I guess I would say.
Yeah.
So maybe there is something to your point that Eric Bieniemy being gone, a whole new offensive coordinator who does things differently. Because Eric Bieniemy has been Mahomes' offensive coordinator for all starting years.
Yeah. So
so
Matt Nagy, who was in Chicago before, he was the OC when Mahomes was a rookie, when he was not a starter. And Alex Smith, had that MVP year, but he didn't really work with Mahomes that much as the starter, at least.
So maybe it's trying to figure that relationship that needs to get worked out and figured out for sure. And so I have a complete confidence in Andy Reid and Matt Nagy that they figure it out.
Well, I'm not saying they're not going to figure it out, but I mean, maybe Eric Bieniemy was a better offensive coordinator than people or even us gave him credit for. I mean,
I think that's probably true.
Yeah,
that's probably true.
And he's in Washington now with the Commanders. They played the Broncos yesterday, and the Broncos, are a team that's trying to be better. They have Sean Payton now. Their offense is still struggling, but they have a great defense still. Their defense is now, it's not as elite as it was, say, 5 years ago, but it's still, at least presumably, we are still learning what every team is at this point of the year, but presumably it's still one of the top defenses in the league. And yet the Commanders hung 35 points on the Broncos yesterday, which is the most points that the Commanders have put up on a scoreboard in, I think they said, 3 years. And the difference, Eric Bieniemy's there now. And so maybe Eric Bieniemy deserves a little bit more credit than we or others even gave him credit for.
Well, I think he'll get a head coaching job now.
Yeah, I think you're right. If he continues this trend, especially, I think maybe next year he might get that coaching job. See, his head coach now, Ron Rivera, is a defensive guy. So, he's going to get all the credit for the offense, good or bad, this year.
Right.
All right, so now that we saw Chris Jones' first game back, he dominated, had a sack, had several pressures, and affected the game over and over and over again. Made Trevor Lawrence look uncomfortable in the pocket. Trevor Lawrence just looked like he was trying to just keep his head above water and just couldn't ever get a grip on the game. And so he did what we expect him to do as a guy who says he's going to be the defensive player of the year, right?
Right.
And a guy who wants this big contract. And so now that we've seen him back in action for another game following his season last year, which is arguably his best season that he's had so far in the NFL, what should we do with Chris Jones now? And here's the other side of it that we maybe talk about both of these at the same time is Mahomes just got a new contract reworked today, right? And so making him the highest paid player over the next 4 years. And so the numbers kind of still coming out on that, but we know Joe Burrow got $55 million a year, and they say Mahomes now is going to be the highest paid year over year in that period of time, and it looks like it's going to be fully guaranteed over those 4 years at least. So the question is how are we going to pay these other guys, and namely Chris Jones, this offseason when Mahomes just got all that money? Or should we even pay Chris Jones? Or, I mean, what do we do now?
I mean, he's like, 30 years old? I think you pay Chris Jones at least 2 more years, maybe 3 more years. I mean,
Chris Jones will be 30 next summer, so he's not 30 yet.
Yeah, so I think you pay him 3 years, give him a 3-year extension, and pay him. Figure out. Hopefully, the salary cap will go up, which I presume it will. I mean, the NFL is just printing money in the basement of Roger Goodell's house,
That's
and
right.
So I think you would just hopefully figure out how we can pay. But I think the Chiefs kind of have a good system where they're like, you need a pass rusher, you need a pass catcher, and you need a pass thrower, right? And so I think they have figured it out. And so I think with these rookies, and you're seeing Mahomes, like, even with his greatness, and I can't remember who I was hearing, so I won't give. But it was someone like the Kansas City Chiefs asked a lot out of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
right. They don't like Herbert doesn't get asked to do this stuff. Joe Burrow doesn't get asked. I mean, I think Joe Burrow will get asked to do this stuff here soon. Josh Allen doesn't get asked to do this stuff. But I mean, like, here you have a wide receiver room that people are laughing at. And here Mahomes is winning games with. Here Mahomes took a team to a Super Bowl. And so I think he's worth it. Mahomes, go on Mahomes' contract. He's worth it to be paid whatever he wants, whether he wants $200 million a year, even though that would destroy our cap. But we'd pay him and say, good luck. We got Andrew and Dale at wide receiver.
That's right. He'd probably make us look good.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know about that.
I will say we might not have the speed or the hands anymore, but he'd make us look better than we are, but we probably still wouldn't be good. So
I think I'd be good for one play.
There you go.
All right, that's it. That's it.
Once you get one hit from one of those safeties coming in from the deep side, just takes one big hit to say, you know what, the NFL is not for me.
No, it's not. Not for long.
That's right. That's right.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I just think I wish we could, and I think like signing bonuses, I think would be a great deal. Clark Hunt needs to get the checkbook out, and I know you mentioned in a couple of podcasts ago where he doesn't pay defensive guys the third time around, and so you got like Honey Badger who you didn't pay, you got Eric Berry who you didn't pay, and so there's like a trend here where we're seeing, and so does that mean we're not going to pay Chris Jones?
Well, I think part of that is they look at their production, they look at their age, they look at a lot of things. I mean, look at Eric Berry. When they decide not to pay him, what did he do after that?
Yeah, bone spurs though, bud. He had bone.
I know. I'm not saying that he's not a great guy. He's one of my favorite NFL defenders of all time. But were they wrong to not pay him?
Yeah. No, they were not wrong.
All right. I mean, who's another NFL defensive guy? I mean, Justin Houston, right? Were they wrong to not pay him?
Oh yeah, that was another one.
What did he do after he left the Chiefs?
Ali.
What did these guys do after they left the Chiefs when they didn't get paid?
Houston went to Indianapolis. D Ford went to
Houston's
49ers.
still playing. Houston is still playing. Houston is playing for the Carolina Panthers. I actually looked this up Justin and I, because I was watching the Monday Night Football game. I thought, man, there's Justin.
Yeah.
How old is that guy by now? How old do you think he
Yeah.
is? You're just guessing.
He is 37 years old.
I was guessing around 38. I looked up, that guy's 34 years old. I thought that guy is much younger than I thought he was. Much younger. So, but yeah, he's still playing. But that's what I'm saying is I'm all for paying the players if they're going to continue to produce. But when they've chosen not to pay some of these players, what have they done when they've left? I'm not saying Justin Houston still isn't productive, but he's not the productive guy that he was with the Chiefs when he had 22 sacks in a season.
No.
Right. So, I mean, that's my point is as long as they're going to continue to produce, pay them. But if they're not going to produce, if they're on the downward trend, don't pay them for what they already did. You're not paying them for what they did in the past. You're paying them for what they're going to do in the future.
Right.
So that's where I'm sitting at. And even with Chris Jones, right? With Chris Jones, I say pay him as much as you can because I think he's got at least 2 more great years in him, maybe 3. But pay him what you can as long as you don't put your team in a position where you can't be competitive for a Super Bowl. Right. That is my big thing, and that I've said before, and I'll say again is some of these guys, like Mahomes, that guy is worth whatever you want to pay him. Even if you want to pay him $100 million a year, and you can only get guys who are rookies who are undrafted to play with him, Mahomes is worth it because he is that good of a player and makes that everybody else around that much better. But to the same point, some of these guys, I want them to get all the money that they can. I do, but unfortunately, you can't pay everybody. And I want to have a team that's competitive year after year, like the Patriots were. And Tom Brady took a little less to put a better team around him versus the LA Rams who a few years ago went all out, put all this money towards all these guys, won that one year, and then now kind of fallen off and have not been as productive as they were that one year.
Well, and you got people like Snead that's going to be coming up, Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, Duffy is looking tremendous out there, who's going to want to get paid sooner than later, I would say. So, I mean, like the defense, definitely, there's a lot of great players. And unfortunately, I'm sure Brett Beach and his team has a number that they're like, hey, we're going to spend this much on defense and we're going to spend this much on offense. And so they'll just have to figure it out.
Yeah, and as they get through this, we've talked a lot before about, Brett Veach being the best GM that's the Chiefs have probably ever had, maybe the NFL has ever seen. If he can figure out this Chris Jones situation, figure out how to get him signed as well as keep Mahomes, like the money he just gave him, as well as bringing other guys too. I mean, he might be the greatest GM of all time.
Yeah. Franchise tag, 2 years.
There you go.
Didn't let him walk.
Chris I would be furious. I mean, he said out when he's under contract. You think you're going to come to camp when he's under franchise tag, but you could do that and potentially trade him.
Money though, right?
It is. So you could potentially trade him though, even after you do that. So, a couple things to take note of too, just as we wrap up here. We know that the Bengals are now 0-2. A lot of these, the Bills have lost a game. These teams are supposed to be all these juggernauts for the Chiefs, have not quite panned out. And so the benefit to the Chiefs being 1-1 here, their one loss came against an NFC team. And so that's going to prove out to be a better loss than a loss against an AFC team when it comes down to playoff seeding. So Chiefs fans, if you're worried after that first week, don't be. All is going to be right in the
first
world.
Place.
That's right. Tied for first place right now.
We're tied for first place right now. And Broncos and Chargers are 0-2. Is that right? Is that real?
Yeah. I mean, those are kind of teams that you didn't think were going to be that way, right? So, I mean, you saw some teams like the Dolphins and such that are going to be taking a run at it. But, but the Chiefs are in a good spot, so no reason for anybody to panic or worry about what's going on with them.
All right. Victory Monday, baby.
That's right. Victory Monday. All right. Well, join us next time in our next episode. We'll preview the game against the Bears coming up here this Sunday. This episode is brought to you by Oh Hey Threads, where a portion of every purchase goes to support missions all over the world, one super soft tea at a time. We'll see you next time right here in the Kingdom Corner.